Good day, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about how to prepare an issue paper. Many students think an issue paper is simply a report that summarizes information. It is not. An issue paper is more like a doctor's diagnosis before treatment. Imagine you visit a doctor because you have been experiencing headaches for several months. A bad doctor immediately gives you medication. A good doctor asks questions. When did the headaches start? How often do they happen? What activities make them worse? What medications are you taking? Have there been changes in your lifestyle? The doctor first tries to understand the problem before recommending a solution. That is exactly what an issue paper does. An issue paper helps decision makers understand a problem before deciding what action should be taken. The purpose is not to provide all the answers immediately. The purpose is to help a client clearly understand what the problem really is, why it exists, who is involved, and what should happen next. Think about a city facing a homelessness crisis. One group says the problem is lack of affordable housing. Another group says the problem is drug addiction. Another group says the problem is mental health. Another group says the problem is unemployment. Who is correct? Possibly all of them. An issue paper helps organize these different perspectives into a coherent understanding of the problem. It is like assembling pieces of a puzzle. Each stakeholder sees one part of the picture. The issue paper brings the pieces together. Let's use another example. Imagine a university notices that fewer students are enrolling each year. The university president may ask, why is enrollment declining? The admissions office may blame demographics. Faculty members may blame tuition increases. Students may blame the lack of scholarships. Parents may worry about job opportunities after graduation. Government regulators may focus on accreditation issues. Everybody sees the problem from a different angle. The issue paper helps bring all those perspectives together. This is why policy analysts often work in what we call multi-actor systems. A multi-actor system simply means many different people, organizations, and groups are involved in the same issue. Think about traffic congestion in Los Angeles. Drivers are involved. City government is involved. Public transportation agencies are involved. Businesses are involved. Environmental groups are involved. Residents are involved. Each actor has different interests. Drivers want faster travel times. Businesses want customers to reach stores. Environmental groups want fewer emissions. Public transportation agencies want more riders. An issue paper helps us understand these competing interests before making recommendations. One mistake many people make is assuming that every problem has a single cause. Real-world problems rarely work that way. Imagine your car suddenly stops running. The battery could be dead, the alternator could be faulty, the fuel pump could be broken. You might simply be out of gas. Jumping to conclusions often leads to expensive mistakes. Policy problems work exactly the same way. The first job of an issue paper is not solving the problem. The first job is properly framing the problem. Framing means defining what the problem really is. Let me give you an example. Suppose a hospital experiences a rise in patient falls. One way to frame the problem is, nurses are not paying enough attention. Another way to frame it is, the hospital lacks adequate staffing. Another way is, the hospital's patient monitoring system is outdated. Notice how each framing points toward a different solution. If you frame the problem incorrectly, you may end up solving the wrong problem. This is why issue papers spend considerable time understanding the situation before proposing action. Now let's talk about the introduction section. Many students think introductions should be long. Actually, a strong introduction is concise and focused. Imagine watching the first 5 minutes of a movie. The movie should tell you what is happening, who is involved, why should you care, what challenge lies ahead. An issue paper introduction does the same thing. It explains the context. It introduces the problem. It identifies who owns the problem. It discusses possible solutions. And it explains why the issue is difficult. Consider climate change. Everybody agrees that climate change is important. But who owns the problem? Governments? Businesses? Consumers? International organizations? Future generations? The answer is complicated. That complexity is exactly what issue papers are designed to analyze. Now let's discuss something called the framed problem. This is the heart of the issue paper. Think of the framed problem as the storyline. Every good movie has a storyline. Every good novel has a storyline. Every good issue paper has a storyline. Without a storyline, the paper becomes a collection of unrelated facts. Facts alone do not persuade people. Stories help people understand relationships between facts. For example, imagine a city struggling with water shortages. One storyline might focus on population growth. Another might focus on climate change. Another might focus on aging infrastructure. Each storyline highlights a different interpretation of the same issue. The policy analyst must decide which storyline best explains the problem. One common storyline involves conflicting values. This happens all the time. Imagine a city wants to build a new airport. Businesses support it because it creates jobs. Residents oppose it because of noise. Environmental groups oppose it because of emissions. Local politicians are caught in the middle. Everyone may agree that transportation is important, but they disagree about what matters most. The issue paper identifies these competing values and explains why conflict exists. Another common storyline involves disagreement about solutions. Imagine everyone agrees that housing prices are too high. The disagreement is not about the problem. The disagreement is about the solution. Some people want rent control. Others want more construction. Others want government subsidies. Others want tax incentives. The challenge is no longer identifying the problem. The challenge is choosing among competing solutions. Another common storyline involves trade-offs. Trade-offs occur whenever we cannot have everything we want. Suppose a company wants to increase employee salaries. That sounds wonderful. But higher salaries may mean fewer employees can be hired. The company must balance competing objectives. Governments face trade-offs constantly. Should funding go to healthcare, education, infrastructure, defense? There is never enough money to do everything. Issue papers help decision makers understand these trade-offs. Another storyline involves uncertainty. Imagine you are deciding whether to bring an umbrella. If you knew with certainty it would rain, the decision would be easy. If you knew with certainty it would stay sunny, the decision would also be easy. The problem exists because the future is uncertain. Many policy decisions face similar uncertainty. Will interest rates rise? Will immigration increase? Will energy prices fall? Will artificial intelligence disrupt jobs? Decision makers must act even when they do not know what will happen. Issue papers help them think through these uncertainties. Once the problem has been analyzed, the issue paper moves to conclusions and recommendations. Notice something important. Recommendations should not appear from nowhere. A recommendation should grow naturally from the analysis. Imagine a detective solving a crime. At the end of the investigation, the conclusion should make sense based on the evidence. If the detective suddenly accuses someone who was never mentioned before, the audience will be confused. The same principle applies to policy analysis. Recommendations must be supported by evidence and reasoning. Now we come to one of the most important questions. What happens after the issue paper? Many students mistakenly believe the issue paper is the final product. In reality, it is often the beginning. The issue paper frequently recommends follow-on activities. These may include conducting additional research, holding stakeholder workshops, organizing mediation sessions, collecting new data. Testing alternative policies. The issue paper identifies the next step in the problem-solving process. Think about buying a house. Before purchasing a home, you may hire an inspector. The inspection report does not fix the roof. It does not repair the plumbing. It does not replace electrical wiring. Instead, it identifies issues and recommends actions. An issue paper serves a similar function. It helps decision makers understand what should happen next. So what makes an excellent issue paper? First, it must be recognizable. The people involved should read it and say, yes, this accurately reflects our situation. Second, it must be valid. Readers should trust the evidence and analysis. Third, it must be convincing. The proposed next steps should make sense. Fourth, it must be actionable. Recommendations should be realistic and feasible. A recommendation that requires $100 billion from a small town government is not actionable. Good recommendations can actually be implemented. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: an issue paper is not about showing how much you know, it is about helping someone make a better decision. Many students try to impress readers with hundreds of pages of information, but decision makers are busy. A concise and clear issue paper is often more powerful than a lengthy report. As the saying goes, if you cannot explain a problem simply, you probably do not understand it well enough. The best issue papers do not overwhelm readers with information. They help readers see what truly matters. They separate important issues from distractions. They identify the real dilemma, and they provide a credible path forward. At the end of the day, policy analysis is not about writing reports. It is about helping people solve real-world problems. Whether the issue involves healthcare, education, immigration, business, poverty, transportation, or environmental sustainability, the purpose remains the same. Understand the problem, frame it correctly, analyze the stakeholders, identify the tensions and uncertainties, and recommend practical next steps. That is the essence of an effective issue paper. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing how you apply these principles in your own policy analysis projects.